The anticipation leading up to Elon Musk's appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert had been nothing short of electric fans, and critics alike knew that whenever Musk appeared for an interview, the conversation would veer toward controversy. His polarizing nature made him a perfect candidate for the kind of public spectacle that Collar was known for. But this time there was something different in the air. This wasn't just about Musk's usual bombast and bravado. This time, the billionaire was embroiled in one of the most significant controversies of his career. And as Kohlberg prepared to take on his guest, the stakes were impossibly high. For weeks, Musk had been at the center of a firestorm. His companies, particularly Tesla, were accused of fostering a toxic work culture that systematically marginalized minorities. Critics slammed him for failing to address accusations of racism within his companies. Allegations that Tesla had been the site of racial discrimination lawsuits and a troubling pattern of mistreatment toward black employees continued to surface. Even Musk's own remarks, particularly on affirmative action, had made waves to many. His comments came off as dismissive, and his lack of accountability only fueled the controversy. Stephen Colbert, known for his sharp wit and fearless questioning, had made it clear in the days leading up to the interview that he wouldn't let Musk off easy. Colbert's monologue on the night of the show hinted at the tension to come. There was no love lost between these two figures, and the cracks in Musk's public persona were about to be exposed. Colbert used his opening monologue to throw subtle yet undeniable jabs at Musk's handling of race and social issues. It was a calculated move and effort to set the tone for the interview that would follow. Colbert wasn't just going to interview Musk, he was going to hold him accountable. By the time Musk walked onto the stage, the atmosphere in the studio had shifted. The usual energy of a late show taping was now replaced by a palpable tension. Colbert, ever the seasoned performer, had no intention of engaging in pleasantries. He was there to push Musk to make him answer for the accusations that had dogged him for months. But even Musk seemed aware that this wasn't going to be another routine appearance. His usual confidence, the detached self, assuredness that had carried him through countless public controversies, seemed to have faltered just a little. The interview began as expected, with Colbert acknowledging Musk's incredible achievements. His ventures into electric vehicles, space travel, and artificial intelligence were mentioned. But the usual flow of admiration was short-lived. Collar, not one to shy away from difficult topics, immediately pivoted to the controversy swirling around Musk. He pressed Musk on the allegations of racial discrimination within his companies. Colbert raised the issue of lawsuits involving Tesla, questioning Musk about claims that black employees had been unfairly treated. Musk, ever the pragmatist, wasn't flustered by Colbert's line of questioning. He brushed off the accusations with his usual cool detachment. He dismissed them as misinterpretations, arguing that the media had twisted his words. His defense was simple: his companies hired the best talent regardless of race. According to Musk, the issue wasn't race, but merit. It was the kind of argument he had made time and time again. The world was obsessed with politics, with identity, when it should have been focused on productivity and achievement. But Bear wasn't satisfied with Musk's evasions. The host had come prepared. He didn't just want Musk to explain his position. He wanted to push Musk to confront the real-world consequences of his actions. Colbert presented statistics firsthand, accounts from whistleblowers, and references to past remarks Musk had made that had stirred backlash. He didn't let Musk off the hook, not even for a second. The conversation grew more intense, with Colbert pointing out that ignoring systemic issues didn't make them go away. Musk's responses became shorter, more clipped. His usual sense of control seemed to slip, as though the barrage of questions was slowly wearing him down. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. But even as the interview became more uncomfortable, he tried to steer the conversation back to his pet projects. He spoke about his grand vision for humanity's future advancements in AI, space colonization, and his promise of a multiplanetary civilization. But Colbert, undeterred, reminded Musk that this interview wasn't about Tesla or Twitter. This was about accountability. The tension in the room was palpable now. The playful energy that had once defined the Late Show atmosphere had completely evaporated. The studio was no longer a space for lighthearted banter. It had become a battlefield. Kohler, emboldened by the rising tension, made a remark that would change the trajectory of the conversation. He didn't ask Musk a question this time. Instead, he leveled an outright accusation at him. The audience reacted immediately. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, sensing that the conversation had just shifted into more dangerous territory. Musk's reaction was swift, his expression darkened. The flicker of amusement he had held on to so far disappeared. He leaned forward, his voice colder and sharper than before. It was clear that Colbert had struck a nerve. Musk wasn't going to let this go without a fight. He had spent years building a reputation as someone who could weather any storm. But now the storm was coming directly at him, and Colbert wasn't going to let up Colbert's challenge. Now wasn't about Musk's vision for the future or his technological innovations. It was about the damage that Musk's words and actions had done in the here and now. Colbert pressed Musk to admit that he had contributed to a culture of racial insensitivity, that his rhetoric had helped fuel division in society. Musk, however, wasn't interested in engaging with that narrative. His response was blunt, dismissing Colbert's challenge as nothing more than an orchestrated attack. He made it clear that he wasn't going to apologize just to appease the media's need for a villain. The audience was split now. Some clapped in support of Musk's defiance, while others murmured uneasily, unsure of how to react to the escalating tension. Colbert, ever the showman, saw the opening. He reminded Musk that power without accountability was dangerous. Being a billionaire didn't put him above criticism, and Colbert wasn't going to let Musk dismiss the real-world consequences of his influence. But Musk was digging in his heels. He accused Cole of twisting his words, playing into a larger media ecosystem designed to tear down successful figures like himself. Colbert, sensing that the conversation had reached a boiling point, leaned in, pushing harder than ever. The stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about a celebrity interview anymore. It was about control of the narrative, and neither man was going to back down at this point. The dynamic between the two men was shifting. Musk's responses were no longer measured or calculated. They were sharp-cutting, filled with a palpable contempt. He accused Colbert of being part of a larger media machine that thrived on outrage and conflict. Colbert, for his part, pushed even harder. Accusing Musk of hypocrisy, he pointed out that Musk had never hesitated to weigh in on political debates when it suited him. But when faced with accusations that directly implicated him, Musk was suddenly trying to separate himself from politics. Colbert saw that as glaring hypocrisy, and he wasn't going to let it go. Musk let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his eyes locked onto Colbert with a look that suggested he was recalibrating his approach. This was no longer about answering questions. This was about dominance. The stakes had grown higher, and Musk wasn't about to let Colbert take control. The next few moments were a blur of escalating accusations. Colbert pointed out that Musk had built his brand on controversy, using Twitter to manipulate public perception and stock division. When it suited him, Musk, however, was no longer taking the bait. He shifted the conversation back to the media's obsession with vilifying him. He accused Colbert of using this interview as a performance, a carefully crafted spectacle designed to make him the villain for rating. By now, the audience was fully invested in the clash between these two powerful figures. The room was electric, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Each word, each jab, each counterpoint seemed to carry the weight of years of public scrutiny and personal ambition. There was no turning back now. The interview had stopped being a conversation and had become a war of egos. As the interview continued, Colbert's tone became even more aggressive. He demanded that Musk take accountability, that he recognize the harm his words had caused. He accused Musk of hiding behind his success, refusing to acknowledge the consequences of his influence. But Musk was having none of it. His patience was worn thin, and he wasn't going to let Colbert lecture him. He rejected the notion that he owed anyone an apology. Instead, he turned the tables on Colbert, accusing him of being just another cog in the media machine, a hypocrite who thrived on outrage while pretending to stand for justice. The confrontation had reached a fever pitch. Neither man was willing to back down, and the audience was caught in the middle of this explosive clash. The usual light-hearted late-night banter had long since disappeared, leaving behind only the raw, unfiltered tension between two powerful figures, each unwilling to concede an inch. It was no longer just an interview. It was a battle. a battle of narratives, ideologies, and egos. Colbert, sensing that Musk was pushing back with unyielding force, made one last attempt to corner him. He demanded that Musk admit his faults, acknowledge his role in perpetuating division, but Musk, his expression, Stone Cold, made it clear he wasn't going to play along. He dismissed the conversation as nothing more than a manufactured spectacle designed to tear him down. The tension in the room was palpable. Some in the audience applauded Musk's defiance, while others sat in stunned silence, unsure of what they had just witnessed. The interview, once a moment for lighthearted jokes and celebrity banter, had devolved into something much darker, an ideological battle that neither Musk nor Colbert was willing to lose in the end. As the final moments of the interview played out, it became clear that neither man would walk away. The victor, Colbert, had pushed Musk to the brink, forcing him to reveal his raw emotion, but Musk had fought back just as fiercely. The audience, divided in their loyalties, was left with no clear resolution. Just the lasting image of two powerful figures locked in a battle of wills, unwilling to concede, unwilling to back down.